Obviously, this is a time of great change and flux in the law. This is May 9, 2025, and there have been lots of executive actions which are new and somewhat different from what came before. And Karen's going to share a little bit about what those mean for independent schools.
Thanks, Pete. It's good to be here talking with you today. We have, like I'm sure anybody listening to this has also had, the almost daily news of changes that are happening in our government and environment that affects all of us, and of course, affects the way that people are thinking about the schools, the schools that they're running, and the schools that they are on the board of or working at, et cetera. So it's been something that we've as we're paying attention from our point of view, what we're seeing is that the changes are coming from the executive branch, right? And they're not necessarily legislative changes. There haven't been big changes in the law. And lawyers are, of course, very tuned into that. So what we're watching is that there's been a shift in the environment around the way that the laws that currently exist are interpreted. So the interpretations that are placed on the laws are the things that have been changing. We notice this most clearly in the form of the executive orders. There have been well over 100 executive orders that have been put into place since the end of January. And these have affected a wide range of issues. Importantly for schools, they're looking at, they're really affecting employment, but also enrollment areas. They are talking about employment practices and policies. There's been a shift in interpretation around how to apply what have been traditional thoughts around discrimination, and to look at these things through a different lens. It's very different. And because it's a change in interpretation, we're not just looking at a strict change in the law. What we're looking at is how the law is going to be carried out going forward. And because this is all new, it really is a change. It really is an environment of change, and one that has caused a lot of our clients to give us a call about how to start thinking about things going forward. And it's going to continue to change. That is clearly something that we've noticed, and we're at this point. It's going to be something that we're all going to have to be ready to continue to adapt the way that we think about how to apply the laws that we know about under these new enforcement guidelines.
I think that's really well said, and I think that for me, one of the biggest takeaways is that we need to think about how schools are going to be responsive, not what they're going to do precisely, because the change is happening. But I think independent schools should develop a mindset, and I think Karen, maybe you agree. I'd be interested in your thought. But I think it's about mindset and process, about response to these changes in the nature of the enforcement and the interpretation of the laws on the books, and perhaps eventually changes in the law. We don't know yet. There are a lot of cases that are moving through the federal court system, and there are, starting to be, I think, more discussions at the congressional level, but it's a time of rapid change. So we'd like to talk about how we think independent schools ought to be prepared for that change. Karen, do you agree? Do you have thoughts on what I just said?
Yes, I do agree. I think that thinking about this as this time of revisiting then the mission for your school. This is a time to, when the big world is unsettled, to look inside and to say, we're here as an educational institution, and we have a mission and a purpose for what we do and what we offer. And this isn't really like the marketing, this is what makes us different or unique. This is really to look at the core ideas that are why your institution exists, and to think about how those ideas are carried out across the board. They're carried out in terms of your hiring, they're carried out in terms of your policies, the way that the student handbook looks, the way that your employment contracts look, et cetera. And that this is the time to revisit that mission as the world is changing around, to think about how that mission is carried out across the board, and where that mission can help you clarify how to make changes if you feel that they're needed based on this new regulatory environment that we are um, watching in the course of a change that it's coming from the executive branch, but now then the courts are going to respond to it. And if there are going to be legislative changes as well from our legislatures, whether at the federal level or the state level, those are also going to impact. When you can rest in your core principles, then your ability to make the changes that you might need to make become a little bit clearer for you.
I completely agree, and I think your point about mission is key. And obviously, for religious organizations, I think that they should review religious independent schools. They should review what it is that is foundational to the institution and how that runs through the work that they do, and the way that they teach students. Um, I, I think with regard to mission, there are specific steps that we think schools can take, and we'd like to share a couple of those. And again, this is not legal advice. It is not, uh, this is the state of the law. It is more about how you approach this time. And we think that in this time, perhaps in all times, but I think it's particularly profoundly important now, schools should have a, a team. They should have a team inside the institution, which is responsive to um, the change, and there should be the change in the law and the changing nature of what applies, the rules that might apply to the school. And we think there needs to be a team outside too. And sometimes those teams might work together. I think more often they're likely to be apart, but it's a disciplined organizational process that is responsive to the circumstance um, coming through the executive branch of the federal government, and perhaps other places, as Karen pointed out. Um, So I'm just going to share what I think of as the teams that schools should have. Karen probably has thoughts on these. I hope she'll share those. But I think inside you want to put the board together, a couple members of the board together who are involved in the school and in touch with the community, and perhaps have some expertise, a lawyer, someone who understands politics, um, and senior admin, a couple of people from senior admin, probably not the entire administrative team, but a couple of key people that will be digesting uh, the law as it comes through, as it becomes presented in the news, as it might be shared with the school from school organizations, other school leaders, or school council, and think about how to move that through the organization of the school, perhaps more broadly to the institution. Perhaps some things go up to the board or to a committee of the board that is focused on mission. Some things go to the administration, the full administrative team, to digest and respond to. Um, and there should be sort of a fulsome, thoughtful response on a regular basis to the issues that arise. Karen, can you add to that? Share your thoughts, please.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that that's a great the having those members who kind of uh, can bring different perspectives from inside the school to bear on the questions that arise is a great way to make sure that you are capturing the different ways that people see the impact of these changes affecting the school. Also, to that I think that you want to look for people that are going to be open-minded and deliberative, that people that are going to recognize that this is a conversation that's going to be evolving and changing, and that they are going to be a real help to the school, to the leaders of the school, to give them feedback, insight about the changes and about how they can apply and how they can maybe go back and reapply if something's not working. Um, and that those people then, there's also, I think that there's room for the inside team is super important for your school. And somebody at the school, maybe one or two people, should also be looking outside the school to regional groups, whether it's your local independent schools organization, um, or something similar to that, that can um, help you think about the larger picture in the community, the way that the impacts are coming through the community, so that you can start to see, or so you can all share with each other really the things that you're seeing coming from the community, from within your schools, from the students, teachers, parents, etc., as well as the impacts, so that people can be ready when new ideas are circulating, that they cannot be caught off guard on that.
So I think that it's really key also, and I talked about the inside team, and Karen, you've added some, I think, important insight into that. The outside team needs to be in place. It needs to be ready to go. And I think the outside team is a communications person, communications expert who can help the school communicate with its community, and a lawyer. And there are times when it is absolutely essential for those people to work together. And I think this is one of those times where schools need to have their team communicating with each other on a regular basis. I think it's worth the effort. I think it's worth a little bit of cost, fees, and I think it'll pay off.